The roar of engines, the churn of tracks, the acrid scent of cordite hanging heavy over the European battlefields of World War II. Amidst this maelstrom, a new breed of American armored vehicle emerged, promising a revolution in tank warfare: the M18 Hellcat. It was a machine built for speed, a lightweight marvel designed to outmaneuver and outflank the formidable German Panzers. With its open-top turret and thin armor, the Hellcat was undeniably fast, a blur of motion darting across the landscape, a stark contrast to the lumbering steel beasts it was designed to hunt. But speed, as many crews quickly discovered, was a double-edged sword. While it provided unparalleled mobility, it offered little protection against the devastating firepower of a Panther or a Tiger. The M18 Hellcat, for all its groundbreaking agility, found itself in a paradoxical position. It could get to the fight faster than almost anything else on tracks, but once there, its 76mm gun often struggled to penetrate the thick frontal armor of the latest German tanks. Side shots were preferred, rear shots were ideal, but achieving those angles against a well-positioned, heavily armored opponent was a deadly gamble. The Hellcat was a scout, a flanker, an opportunist, but in the brutal calculus of tank-on-tank combat, it was not, initially, the decisive killer the Allied forces so desperately needed. German crews, confident in their superior armor and weaponry, often viewed the Hellcat as a nuisance, easily dispatched if caught in a direct engagement. The Hellcat was fast, yes, but was it truly a killer? Not in the way they desperately needed. This stark reality led to growing frustration. Commanders demanded more. Crews, facing overwhelming odds, prayed for an edge. It was in this crucible of desperation and innovation that a legend began to form, not in the high echelons of military planning, but in the grease-stained workshops of a forgotten maintenance unit. There, a mechanic known only as Mac harbored an idea so radical, so unconventional, that many dismissed it as sheer madness. Mac was a man of the wrenches, not the drawing board, a practical genius who saw beyond the established doctrines and understood the fundamental limitations of the Hellcat in a way the strategists in their war rooms could not. He knew that pure speed, while advantageous, was not enough to turn the tide against the formidable German armor. The Hellcat needed a bite as fearsome as its bark. Mac's crazy idea wasn't about adding more armor, a move that would negate the Hellcat's defining speed. Nor was it about simply upgrading the gun, a logistical and engineering nightmare that would require extensive redesign. His solution was far more subtle, yet infinitely more profound. It was a modification that on paper seemed almost insignificant, a tweak to an existing system, but one that promised to unlock the true predatory potential of the M18. He envisioned a Hellcat that could not only outrun its prey, but also strike with unprecedented precision and lethality, turning its very speed into a weapon of unparalleled destruction. The concept was simple in its elegance, yet revolutionary in its application. It was an audacious gamble, a defiance of conventional wisdom, but one born from a deep understanding of combat mechanics and a relentless pursuit of tactical advantage. The moment of truth arrived, not in a controlled test environment with carefully measured parameters, but in the raw, unforgiving chaos of a real engagement. A unit of M18s pushing through the scarred landscapes of Europe found themselves confronting a spearhead of formidable German Panthers. Among these Hellcats, one bore Mac's secret modification, a silent testament to his unconventional genius. The stage was set for a confrontation that would redefine perceptions of the M18 Hellcat forever. What happened next would send shockwaves through both Allied and Axis lines, transforming the Hellcat from an agile but often vulnerable tank destroyer into something far more terrifying. The Hellcat, no longer merely a fast flanker, began to engage German armor with a newfound, almost predatory efficiency. Its speed was still there, a crucial element in its tactics, But now, combined with Mac's ingenious solution, it became a harbinger of destruction, turning the tables on tanks that had once seemed invincible. German crews, accustomed to their dominance, suddenly faced a terrifying, inexplicable threat from the very vehicles they had once considered lesser. The M18 Hellcat, once an agile but vulnerable tank destroyer, was reborn. It became the ultimate German tank killer, not through brute force, but through cunning innovation and the sheer audacity of one mechanic's crazy idea. But what exactly was this modification? How did it truly transform the Hellcat from a fast scout into a fearsome predator capable of bringing down the mightiest German beasts? The full story, the intricate details of Mac's brilliant, unconventional thinking, and the dramatic impact it had on the brutal battlefields of World War II, is a legend that deserves to be told. The M18 Hellcat, a marvel of speed and agility, danced across the European battlefields, a blur against the lumbering German behemoths. Yet its 76mm main gun, while potent against lighter targets, often found itself staring down the impenetrable glacis plates of a Panther or the formidable turret of a Tiger. German engineering had produced tanks with sloped armor designed to deflect incoming shells, creating a defensive shield that made direct frontal engagements a suicidal endeavor for most Allied vehicles, especially the lightly armored Hellcat. The tactical doctrine for the Hellcat was clear: use its unparalleled speed to outflank, to get to the sides or rear where armor was thinner, and then strike with decisive force. This worked in theory and often in practice, but the chaos of combat rarely afforded such textbook opportunities. German tank commanders were not static targets. They maneuvered, adapted, and covered their flanks. A Hellcat crew, having executed a daring high-speed flank, would often find themselves in a fleeting window of opportunity, a fraction of a second to acquire a target, aim, and fire before the German gun traversed or before their own position was compromised. The Hellcat was fast, but precision under such duress was a monumental challenge. Mac, the unassuming mechanic in a forgotten maintenance unit, understood this brutal reality far better than any strategist poring over maps. He had seen the Hellcats return, sometimes victorious, often riddled with battle scars, their crews recounting near misses and the agonizing frustration of shells bouncing harmlessly off enemy armor. He knew the 76mm gun could penetrate, but only if the shot landed in a specific critical spot: a vision port, a commander's cupola, the delicate gap between turret and hull, or, ideally, the thinner side or rear armor. The problem wasn't the gun's potential, but the Hellcat's ability to consistently deliver that potential with surgical accuracy amidst the chaos of high-speed maneuvers. The very speed that defined the Hellcat became paradoxically an impediment to this necessary precision. A Hellcat, having zipped into position, would often have to brake violently, stabilize its chassis, and then allow the gunner to acquire and track the target. This precious delay, however brief, could be fatal. Mac's crazy idea wasn't about a bigger gun or thicker armor. Those were conventional solutions that would compromise the Hellcat's core identity. His vision was to transform the Hellcat's speed from merely an evasive and flanking tool into an active component of its lethality, allowing it to strike with pinpoint accuracy while maintaining its dynamic advantage. He began to tinker, observing the Hellcat's internal mechanisms, its hydraulics, its firing controls, with an intensity that bordered on obsession. The existing gun stabilization system, while present, was rudimentary, designed more for general accuracy during slow movement than for the kind of precise snapshot lethality Mac envisioned. He recognized that the Hellcat's speed could be leveraged, not just for positioning, but for accelerating, the targeting process, for making those fleeting windows of opportunity count, for turning a hopeful shot into a guaranteed hit on a weak point. His initial sketches, scrawled on grease-stained napkins, were met with incredulity. Fellow mechanics, steeped in standard military engineering, saw only a complex, unnecessary alteration to a system that, while imperfect, was considered functional. Why bother, they'd ask. Just get closer or wait for the perfect angle. But Mac knew that waiting meant dying, and getting closer often meant exposing the Hellcat's vulnerable frame to a German gun. He argued that the Hellcat needed to shoot better and faster than the enemy could react, to exploit the very briefest of openings. He envisioned a Hellcat that could acquire, aim, and fire with an almost instinctive fluidity, a tank destroyer that moved like lightning and struck like a surgeon. His modification, he insisted, would allow the Hellcat to truly embody its name, to hunt and kill with an efficiency previously unimaginable. He was convinced it was the key to turning the agile scout into a true predator. Mac's conviction, however, burned brighter than any skepticism. He was a man who saw the world in gears, hydraulics, and ballistic trajectories, not in bureaucratic memos or theoretical battle plans. The workshop became his sanctuary, a realm of grease, tools, and late-night illumination where the impossible slowly began to take shape. He meticulously studied the M18's existing gun mount and fire control system, dissecting every component, every hydraulic line, every electrical connection. The Hellcat's 76mm gun, while capable, was mounted on a system designed for a different era of combat, one less frantic, less demanding of instantaneous precision on the move. The standard gyroscopic stabilizer was rudimentary, prone to lag, and struggled to compensate for the violent jolts and rapid directional changes inherent to the Hellcat's high-speed maneuvers. A gunner, after a daring sprint or a sharp turn, would find their sights dancing wildly, forced to wait for the gun to settle, precious seconds ticking away while the German Goliath adjusted its aim. Mac's idea was not to replace this system entirely, but to profoundly enhance its responsiveness and accuracy. He envisioned a dynamic stabilization, one that didn't just passively resist movement, but actively anticipated and counteracted it, leveraging the Hellcat's own momentum. He focused on the intricate interplay between the gyroscopic sensors and the hydraulic drive motors that controlled the gun's traverse and elevation. He theorized that by introducing a series of precisely calibrated mechanical linkages and perhaps a subtle modification to the hydraulic pressure regulation, he could create a more immediate, almost intuitive feedback loop. This would allow the gun to remain startlingly steady on target, even as the Hellcat surged forward, braked sharply, or executed a high-speed pivot. The gunner would no longer have to fight the tank's motion. The gun would become an extension of their will, locking onto a target with uncanny tenacity. His workbench became a chaos of disassembled parts, custom-fabricated components, and cryptic diagrams scrawled on whatever surface was available. Days bled into nights as he meticulously machined new bushings, recalibrated pressure valves, and rewired control circuits. There were setbacks, of course. Early attempts often resulted in a gun that either overcorrected violently or lagged even worse than before. Frustration was a constant companion, but Mac's resolve never wavered. He knew that the difference between a near miss and a kill shot could be measured in mere milliseconds, and his modification aimed to reclaim those milliseconds, turning them into a decisive advantage. Finally, after weeks of relentless toil, a single M18 Hellcat rolled out, ostensibly for routine maintenance, but bearing Mac's silent, radical transformation. Its initial tests were informal, clandestine affairs, conducted in the desolate corners of the motor pool after dusk. Mac, often with a trusted, equally unconventional gunner, would put the Hellcat through its paces. They'd accelerate, swerve, and brake, all while the gunner attempted to hold a steady aim on a makeshift target, often an abandoned fuel drum or a painted rock. The initial results were staggering. Where before the gun would lurch and wander, now it held its line with remarkable composure. Shots that would have been impossible on the move now struck home with unnerving regularity. The gunners' reports were filled with a sense of disbelief, a newfound confidence that bordered on exhilaration. Word began to filter through the ranks, hushed whispers of a hot rod Hellcat, one that could shoot straight no matter how fast it went. Commanders, initially dismissive, started to take notice. The concept was still unconventional, a defiance of established engineering. But the battlefield was a cruel teacher, demanding results above all else. With the Allied advance grinding against increasingly formidable German defenses, the desperate need for an edge began to override caution. The moment of truth was approaching, not in a controlled test, but in the brutal crucible of real combat. Mac's crazy idea was about to face the ultimate trial, the terrifying might of the German Panther. The European theatre, a landscape scarred by endless conflict, offered no quarter, only brutal tests of will and steel. It was amidst this unforgiving reality that the stage was set for Mac's audacious gamble. A unit of M18 Hellcats, spearheading a reconnaissance thrust, found themselves abruptly confronted by the dreaded silhouette of German armour. Not just any armour, but a spearhead of Panthers, their sloped glacis plates and formidable 7.5 centimeters Kabuki 42 L70 cannons, a terrifying sight for any Allied tank crew. The air crackled with tension, the distant rumble of powerful engines growing louder, signifying the imminent clash. The standard Hellcat doctrine immediately kicked in. The fast tank destroyers fanned out, their crews seeking flanks, desperate to avoid a head-on engagement against the Panther's superior frontal protection. The plan was textbook: use speed, dart around, find a vulnerable side, and strike. But the Panthers were not static. Their commanders, seasoned veterans of countless engagements, quickly adjusted, presenting their thickest armor, their turrets traversing with predatory slowness, ready to unleash devastating fire. One Hellcat, however, defied the conventional ballet of evasion. This was Mac's modified M18. As the other Hellcats struggled to gain a decisive advantage, often forced to break off their runs or risk exposing their thin armor to the German guns, Mac's Hellcat moved differently. It wasn't just fast, it was surgically precise. A Panther, having just pivoted to counter another Hellcat's flanking attempt, suddenly found itself targeted by an impossibly accurate shot. The modified Hellcat had executed a daring high-speed dash, a maneuver that would typically throw the gunner's aim wildly off. Yet, as it braked, or even while still moving at speed, its 76mm gun remained eerily steady, locked onto a specific, critical point on the Panther's side armor. A flash, a deafening crack, and the German behemoth shuddered, smoke billowing from a fresh, deep wound. The German crews were bewildered. Their intelligence had painted the Hellcat as a nuisance, a fast but fragile opponent whose 76mm gun was largely ineffective against the frontal or even angled side armor of a Panther. Yet here was a Hellcat, not just delivering a hit, but delivering a killing hit with a speed and precision they had never witnessed. It wasn't a lucky shot. It was a testament to an almost unnatural ability to acquire and maintain target lock amidst the chaos of high-speed maneuvers. The American tank destroyer seemed to be firing with an almost instantaneous response, eliminating the precious seconds usually required for a gunner to settle their sights after a violent change in direction. Another Panther, attempting to bring its formidable gun to bear on the audacious Hellcat, found its own flank exposed for a fleeting moment as it adjusted. Mac's Hellcat, already accelerating, swerved and without pause unleashed another round. This time, the shell found the delicate area between the Panther's turret and hull, a notoriously difficult shot to make on the move. The impact was catastrophic. The turret jammed and flames erupted, signaling the demise of another supposedly invincible German tank. The speed, once merely an asset for evasion, had been weaponized, transforming the Hellcat into a dynamic firing platform capable of striking with surgical lethality from any angle, at any speed. The other Allied crews watched in stunned disbelief. Their comrade, this seemingly ordinary M18, was not just surviving. It was dominating. It wasn't brute force, but an uncanny blend of agility and pinpoint accuracy that allowed it to systematically dismantle the German spearhead. The Hellcat, once considered a capable but limited tank destroyer, was now engaging the formidable Panthers with an almost predatory efficiency, its movements fluid, its strikes decisive. German radio chatter, usually filled with confident commands, devolved into a mix of confusion and alarm as they grappled with this inexplicable new threat. The M18 Hellcat, reborn through one mechanic's crazy idea, was turning the tables, proving itself to be a true predator, a German tank killer of unprecedented effectiveness. Its speed had become a stealthy weapon, allowing it to dictate the terms of engagement and strike where the enemy least expected, with a precision that shattered their confidence in their superior armor. The battlefield, moments before a maelstrom of steel and fire, now fell into a stunned silence, broken only by the crackling inferno consuming the Panther wrecks. The German spearhead, once confident and formidable, was broken. The surviving Panthers, their crews bewildered and demoralized by the inexplicable precision and lethality of this single M18, executed a hasty, disorganized retreat, their formidable presence dissolving into the distant tree line. For the Allied Hellcat crews, the scene was one of disbelief and burgeoning triumph. They had witnessed something extraordinary, a Hellcat that moved like a phantom and struck with the force of a hammer, not through overwhelming firepower, but through an uncanny ability to turn fleeting opportunities into decisive kills. Word of the engagement spread like wildfire through the Allied lines. Frontline soldiers, accustomed to the M18's agility, but also its vulnerabilities, recounted tales of a ghost Hellcat that had materialized, decimated German armor, and vanished, leaving behind only the smoking husks of Panthers. The official reports, however, were met with a mixture of awe and skepticism higher up the chain of command. How could a standard M18, armed with its 76mm gun, suddenly achieve such devastating results against the formidable Panther, especially with such surgical precision on the move? Many dismissed it as an exaggerated combat report, a lucky series of shots, or the fog of war-distorting reality. The notion that a mere mechanic could have engineered such a profound tactical advantage seemed preposterous to the brass, steeped in conventional military engineering and procurement. Yet the raw data, the confirmed kills, and the consistent eyewitness accounts from the ground could not be entirely ignored. German intelligence, meanwhile, was in a state of growing alarm. Reports from their retreating Panther crews were chilling. An American tank destroyer, identified as an M18, was engaging them with unprecedented accuracy, hitting weak points that were almost impossible to target reliably, especially while maneuvering. They spoke of a Hellcat that seemed to fire with no discernible pause for stabilization, striking with a fluidity that defied known gunnery principles. Was it a new secret weapon, a new type of ammunition? The psychological impact was immense. The Germans, once confident in their armor's superiority, now faced an invisible, unpredictable threat that shattered their sense of invincibility. For Mack, the unassuming mechanic whose genius had sparked this revolution, the immediate aftermath was less about accolades and more about the quiet satisfaction of seeing his crazy idea vindicated. He remained largely in the shadows, his work speaking for itself on the battlefield. But the military machine, for all its bureaucracy, was pragmatic. Results were paramount, and the results of that engagement were undeniable. The urgent question shifted from "is this true?" to "how can we replicate it?" Commanders, desperate for any edge against the formidable German war machine, began to demand answers. They wanted to understand the modification, to dissect its components, and to equip more Hellcats with this newfound predatory capability. The challenge, however, was significant. Mac's modification wasn't a simple bolt-on upgrade or a change of ammunition type. It was an intricate re-engineering, a subtle yet profound recalibration of the Hellcat's existing stabilization and fire control systems. He hadn't added new exotic technology, he had unlocked the dormant potential within the current framework, creating a synergy between speed and precision that had previously been considered impossible. It was a testament to his deep understanding of mechanical principles and his unconventional approach to problem solving. The true brilliance lay not in a single component, but in the intricate dance of hydraulics, gyroscopes, and mechanical linkages that allowed the 76mm gun to remain locked onto its target with almost unnatural steadfastness, even as the Hellcat danced across the battlefield. The full revelation of Mac's ingenious solution and the path to its wider adoption was about to become the next chapter in the Hellcat's legend. The military's demand for answers eventually led to Mac. Dragged from his grease-stained sanctuary, he faced a panel of skeptical engineers and high-ranking officers in a makeshift command tent, the air thick with the smell of canvas and ambition. His modification wasn't a blueprint, but a testament to hands-on genius, etched into the very metal of the Hellcat he had transformed. Mac hadn't invented a new technology. He had perfected the existing one, unlocking its dormant potential. The M18 standard gun stabilization system relied on gyroscopes to sense movement and hydraulic cylinders to counteract it. But this system was inherently reactive, always playing catch-up, a fraction of a second too slow for the Hellcat's blistering speed. Mac's stroke of brilliance lay in transforming this reactive mechanism into a proactive one. His solution focused on two critical areas: the hydraulic pressure regulation and the mechanical linkages connecting the gyroscope to the hydraulic actuators. He discovered that by installing a series of finely tuned, custom-machined relief valves and restrictors within the hydraulic lines, he could precisely control the flow and pressure of the fluid. This wasn't about more pressure, but smarter pressure. The existing system often delivered a blunt, delayed response, causing the gun to lurch and then overcorrect. Mac's refined hydraulics allowed for instantaneous, nuanced adjustments, preventing overcorrection and minimizing lag, ensuring the gun responded with an almost fluid grace. Crucially, he also redesigned the mechanical linkages. The original connection between the gyroscopic sensors and the hydraulic control valves had a slight inherent play, a minuscule delay that at high speeds translated into significant inaccuracy. Mac eliminated this play by fabricating new, precision-engineered components, ensuring a direct, rigid, and immediate transfer of sensory input to hydraulic action. He essentially created a more direct neural pathway between the gyroscope's perception of movement and the gun's physical response, making the system respond as if it were an extension of the gunner's own reflexes. This intricate dance of calibrated hydraulics and precise mechanics meant that as the Hellcat accelerated, braked, or swerved, the gun's stabilization system wouldn't just react to the tank's motion after it occurred. It would anticipate and counteract it almost simultaneously. The gunner's sights, instead of violently lurching and forcing a pause, would remain incredibly steady, almost glued to the target. It was as if the gun had a mind of its own, constantly fighting against the tank's movement to maintain a fixed point of aim. This allowed gunners to acquire targets and fire with unprecedented speed and accuracy, even while the Hellcat was performing aggressive, high-speed maneuvers. The gun became a dynamic firing platform, able to snap to a target and deliver a killing blow in the fleeting window of opportunity that the Hellcat's speed created. The initial presentation to the engineering panel was met with a mixture of awe and incredulity. "You mean to tell us," one senior engineer reportedly scoffed, incredulous, "that you've simply improved our existing system with a few custom valves and linkages?" Mac, a man of few words and much practical insight, simply pointed to the combat reports, the grim tally of destroyed Panther tanks. The proof was in the smoking wreckage of German armor. The sheer simplicity of his approach was, paradoxically, its greatest hurdle. It wasn't a flashy new invention or a revolutionary weapon, but a profound optimization of what was already there, requiring an intuitive understanding of mechanics that academic engineers focused on grand designs often lacked. Field demonstrations were arranged, not with static targets, but with moving vehicles, simulating the frantic pace of combat. Experienced Hellcat crews, initially skeptical, were astonished. Gunners who had struggled to hit stationary targets from a standstill could now consistently score hits on moving targets, while their own Hellcat was weaving and braking. The modification transformed the M18 from a platform that needed to stop to shoot accurately into a truly dynamic firing platform, capable of delivering precise fire on the move. The Hellcat's speed, once a tactical advantage primarily for evasion and flanking, now became an intrinsic part of its offensive power, allowing it to dictate the engagement and strike with surgical precision. The pressure to replicate Mach's modification was immense. Allied forces were still facing heavy German armor, and this newfound Hellcat capability offered a critical edge in the brutal war of attrition. However, translating Mach's bespoke, hand-tuned adjustments into a standardized, mass-producible kit was no small feat. Mach's initial work was more art than science, a series of precise adjustments made through trial and error, guided by his unparalleled intuition and intimate knowledge of the Hellcat's systems. Engineers from major defense contractors were brought in, tasked with reverse engineering his genius. They meticulously documented every component, analyzed every fluid dynamic, and attempted to codify Mach's intuitive understanding into repeatable manufacturing processes that could be scaled for factory production. This involved extensive testing, material science investigations, and the development of new quality control standards. Each custom valve and linkage had to be reproduced with industrial precision, ensuring that the performance gains weren't lost in mass production. The process was slow, fraught with challenges, and required constant consultation with Mach, who, despite his reluctance for the spotlight, became an indispensable resource. He was the only one who truly understood the delicate balance he had created, the subtle interplay of forces that made his system so effective. The goal was clear. Every new M18 Hellcat, and as many existing ones as possible, needed to be equipped with Mach's Predator modification. The Hellcat was no longer just fast. It was now a truly lethal hunter, ready to redefine tank destroyer tactics on the Western Front. The process of standardization was indeed arduous. Engineers struggled to replicate the nuanced feel and precise tolerances Mach had achieved with his hands. Factory floors buzzed with activity, prototypes underwent rigorous testing, and countless adjustments were made. The challenge wasn't just in manufacturing the individual components, the custom valves, the reinforced linkages, but in ensuring their seamless integration and calibration across thousands of vehicles. Each Hellcat, despite its inherent differences, had to perform with the same surgical precision Mach's original prototype had demonstrated. This required developing entirely new assembly protocols and quality control measures, a testament to the urgency and importance placed on this modification. Eventually, the Predator kit, as it unofficially became known among the crews, began rolling off the production lines. Existing M18s were pulled from the front for rapid retrofitting, while new ones incorporated the modification directly during assembly. The impact on training was immediate and profound. Gunnery schools revamped their curricula, emphasizing dynamic target acquisition and firing on the move. Tank destroyer crews, once taught to use speed for evasion and flanking, were now instructed to weaponize that speed, transforming their Hellcats into moving sniper platforms. Gunners practiced maintaining sight picture through violent turns and rapid acceleration, their confidence growing with each successful shot. The Hellcat, once requiring a momentary stop to deliver accurate fire, could now unleash devastating rounds while maintaining full momentum, a paradigm shift in tank destroyer doctrine. The modified Hellcats soon returned to the front lines, and their presence was felt almost immediately. Gone were the days of Hellcat crews cautiously circling German armor, hoping for a fleeting side shot. Now they engaged with audacious confidence, using their speed not just to escape, but to close distances, dictate angles, and deliver precise, lethal blows. A common tactic emerged. A Hellcat would charge at high speed, drawing fire, then execute a violent swerve or brake, momentarily confusing the slower German gunners. But unlike before, this maneuver wasn't just for evasion. As the German tank attempted to reacquire, the Hellcat's gun, thanks to max modification, would already be locked on, firing a devastating round into a vulnerable point before the enemy could react. The engagements became a brutal ballet of speed and precision. Panthers and Tigers, once considered impervious from the front, found themselves vulnerable to unexpected hits on their less armored sides, turrets, or even drive sprockets, delivered with uncanny accuracy by a Hellcat seemingly moving too fast to aim. German commanders, initially dismissing early reports as isolated incidents or sheer luck, soon faced a systemic problem. Their powerful tanks, designed for direct confrontation, were being picked apart by an enemy they could barely track, let alone hit. Radio intercepts picked up increasingly frantic German chatter, their crews bewildered by the Hellcat's newfound lethality. They spoke of phantom shots and impossible accuracy, unable to comprehend how the American 76mm could be so consistently effective against their formidable armor. The psychological toll on the German panzer crews was immense. Their confidence, built on years of armored superiority, began to erode. The Hellcat, once a fast but relatively harmless adversary, was now a true predator, capable of appearing from nowhere, striking with surgical precision and vanishing before a counterattack could be mounted. This wasn't merely about destroying tanks, it was about shattering morale, instilling fear, and forcing the Germans to reconsider their entire armored doctrine. The M18 Hellcat, propelled by Mac's audacious ingenuity, had not just become a better tank killer, it had become a symbol of Allied adaptability and innovation, a stark counterpoint to the German belief in technological and armored invincibility. It was a transformation that rippled across the Western Front, changing the very nature of tank warfare and giving Allied forces a critical, unexpected edge. The logistical challenges of retrofitting thousands of M18s were eventually overcome, turning Mac's singular innovation into a widespread tactical advantage. Supply depots became temporary modification centers, with specialized teams working around the clock to install the Predator kit. The standardized components, though lacking the unique, hand-tuned finesse of Mac's original, still delivered a dramatic improvement over the stock system. The learning curve for crews, while steep, was quickly overcome as the benefits became undeniable. Gunners, who had once spent precious seconds struggling to reacquire targets after a maneuver, now found their sights glued to the enemy, allowing for near instantaneous firing. This reduction in engagement time was critical, often meaning the difference between a kill and being killed. The impact on larger engagements was profound. No longer were Hellcats relegated to purely flanking roles, forced to rely on other armored units to draw fire or fix enemy positions. They could now operate with greater independence, using their speed to probe enemy lines, identify weak points, and then exploit them with devastating precision. A single Hellcat, once a minor threat to a Panther, could now confidently engage, knowing that its speed, combined with its enhanced gunnery, offered a credible chance of victory. This shift in capability allowed Allied commanders to deploy Hellcats in more aggressive, offensive roles, disrupting German armored formations and exploiting breakthroughs with unprecedented speed and firepower. The Hellcat became a true force multiplier, allowing smaller units to punch above their weight and inflict disproportionate casualties on heavier German armor. German counterintelligence, initially baffled, began to piece together reports of a consistent, almost unnatural accuracy coming from American M18s. They hypothesized about new ammunition types or advanced optical systems, never truly grasping the fundamental yet subtle mechanical re-engineering at play. The psychological impact on their crews deepened. The once feared Panther and Tiger tanks, symbols of German engineering prowess, now faced an agile adversary that could strike with surgical lethality from unexpected angles and at impossible speeds. The fear of the ghost Hellcat spread, undermining confidence and leading to more cautious, less aggressive maneuvers from panzer commanders. The Hellcat, once an agile but often outgunned tank destroyer, had evolved into the ultimate German tank killer, a testament to the power of innovation born from necessity and a mechanic's audacious vision. The tactical landscape of the Western Front began to visibly shift. Allied commanders, once cautious about pitting their lighter M18s against the formidable German panzers, now deployed them with a newfound aggression. The Hellcat, equipped with Mack's Predator kit, was no longer merely a defensive asset or a flanking nuisance. It was a potent offensive weapon capable of leading armored thrusts and breaking through fortified positions. Its speed, combined with surgical precision, allowed it to outmaneuver and outgun even the heaviest German tanks in direct engagements, a feat previously considered suicidal. Tank destroyer battalions, once focused on ambush tactics, began to employ dynamic maneuvers, using terrain and speed to their advantage, engaging enemy armor head-on with confidence, knowing they could deliver a killing blow before the slower, heavier German guns could effectively retaliate. The Battle of the Bulge, a desperate German offensive, became a crucible for the modified Hellcats. In the snow-choked forests and icy roads of the Ardennes, where visibility was poor and engagements often devolved into chaotic close-quarters brawls, the Hellcat's enhanced capabilities shone. Its ability to fire accurately on the move allowed it to navigate treacherous terrain, rapidly acquire targets emerging from the fog of war, and deliver devastating fire into the flanks of advancing Tigers and Panthers. American crews, facing overwhelming numbers, found that Mack's innovation allowed them to punch far above their weight, inflicting crippling losses on German armored formations and buying crucial time for Allied defenses to consolidate. The Ghost Hellcat legend grew, with German prisoners of war speaking of an unseen enemy that struck with impossible speed and accuracy, often from angles they hadn't even considered. This technological edge wasn't just about destroying tanks, it was about preserving Allied lives and accelerating the war effort. Every Panther or Tiger destroyed meant fewer casualties for infantry, fewer delays in advances, and a quicker march towards victory. Mack's crazy idea, born in the grease and grime of a maintenance bay, had fundamentally altered the operational effectiveness of a critical weapon system, turning a good design into a truly exceptional one. The M18 Hellcat, once viewed as a niche vehicle, now stood as a testament to the power of ingenuity in the face of overwhelming odds, a symbol of American adaptability and the relentless pursuit of an advantage, no matter how unconventional. Yet despite the profound impact of his work, Mack himself remained largely an enigma. He wasn't a decorated general or a celebrated scientist, but a mechanic, a man of quiet competence whose greatest satisfaction came from the hum of a perfectly tuned engine and the knowledge that his modifications were saving lives on the front lines. The military machine, for all its eventual adoption of his system, rarely celebrated its unsung heroes in the same way it did its combat aces. Mac's contribution was integrated, standardized, and mass-produced, becoming an anonymous part of the war effort, a testament to practical engineering rather than personal glory. His name might not have echoed through the halls of power, but his genius was etched into the performance of every Hellcat that rolled off the assembly line or was retrofitted in a dusty depot. The legacy of Mac's modification extended beyond the immediate impact of World War II. It highlighted the critical importance of gun stabilization systems in modern tank warfare, influencing the design and development of subsequent armored vehicles. The idea that a tank could be a truly dynamic firing platform, able to engage targets effectively while on the move, became a foundational principle for future tank design. It paved the way for more advanced stabilization technologies, demonstrating that speed and firepower did not have to be mutually exclusive, but could, in fact, be synergistic. The M18 Hellcat, already a trailblazer in mobility, became a pioneer in precision on the move, all thanks to a mechanic who dared to look beyond the conventional. The story of Mac and his Hellcat is a powerful reminder that innovation doesn't always come from the top, nor does it always involve revolutionary new technologies. Sometimes, the most profound breakthroughs are born from a deep, intuitive understanding of existing systems, a willingness to challenge assumptions, and the audacity to tinker with what others consider good enough. And it is a testament to the overlooked geniuses, the hands-on problem solvers who, far from the spotlight, quietly reshaped the course of history with their brilliant, unconventional thinking. The Hellcat, once a fast but vulnerable tank destroyer, was transformed into the ultimate German tank killer, not by a new gun or heavier armor, but by the sheer ingenuity of one man, forever cementing its place as a true legend of war. This profound transformation of the M18 Hellcat from a fast but often outmatched vehicle into a formidable German tank killer stands as a pivotal moment in armored warfare history. It wasn't the result of a massive industrial overhaul or a top-secret scientific project, but the quiet, persistent brilliance of one mechanic who saw potential where others saw limitations. Mac's story is a powerful testament to the fact that true innovation often springs from the most unexpected places, from individuals willing to challenge the status quo and apply deep practical knowledge to seemingly intractable problems. His crazy idea didn't just save lives and turn the tide in countless engagements. It fundamentally reshaped the tactical doctrine for tank destroyers and laid the groundwork for future advancements in mobile gunnery. The M18 Hellcat, with its Predator kit, became more than just a weapon. It became a symbol of ingenuity, adaptability, and the sheer audacity of the Allied war effort. It proved that cunning and precision could overcome brute force, even against the most formidable adversaries. The fear it instilled in German panzer crews, the bewilderment at its impossible accuracy, and the subsequent shift in their armored tactics are all enduring marks of Mac's legacy. His contribution, though perhaps not sung in grand parades, was etched into the very fabric of victory, one destroyed Panther and Tiger at a time. The echoes of his genius resonated far beyond the battlefields of World War II, influencing generations of armored vehicle design and underscoring the vital importance of dynamic firing platforms. The tactical landscape of the Western Front, forever altered by the Hellcat's newfound lethality, stands as a stark reminder that even in the most brutal conflicts, the human element of innovation can be the ultimate game changer. Mac's modification was a subtle masterpiece, a symphony of calibrated hydraulics and precise mechanics that turned an agile scout into a deadly predator. The Ghost Hellcat legend, born in the Ardennes and beyond, continues to captivate, embodying the enduring power of a single, brilliant mind. The tale of Mac and his Hellcat, an unsung hero and a reborn war machine, is a true legend of war. It reminds us that behind every grand narrative of conflict, there are countless individual stories of brilliance, sacrifice, and unexpected breakthroughs that collectively steer the course of history. It's a testament to the power of human ingenuity under pressure, a narrative of how a simple yet profound mechanical adjustment could alter the balance of power on the deadliest battlefields. What other unsung heroes of wartime innovation do you think deserve more recognition? Have you ever heard stories of similar, crazy ideas that changed the face of battle? Share your thoughts and insights in the comments below. And if you found this deep dive into the M18 Hellcat's transformation captivating, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to Legends of War for more untold stories from history's most brutal conflicts, and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next exploration into the annals of combat. Your support helps us continue bringing these incredible legends to light.